Okay, welcome to the Leafman podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Taylor. This is my co-host,
Brooks McCorder.
And I posted on my story and asked people to give us some questions, and I'm honestly surprised with how, maybe it's because I don't have very much exposure, but I always get like 3 or 4, not like a crazy amount.
That's enough.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4
It's good
questions. Enough. Okay. So, I don't know if you have stuff in specific that you want to talk about today, but I do have good questions for us.
I've got a topic of the day, but whenever you want to do, I have my topic, but let's
go first question, topic, and then I have 2 more questions after that.
Sounds good.
Okay, first one is, best advice from your point of view on how to support your spouse through their sobriety without overstepping or making things worse. I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, can you read it again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good.
You read it really fast.
It says, the best advice from your point of view on how to support your spouse through their sobriety without overstepping or making things worse.
I wonder if they're sober themselves.
It's a good question. Yeah. I think it varies, right? Because like if you're not sober yourself, it's going to be much more difficult for you to be supportive of that. I mean, it's still possible for sure.
For sure.
But it's much more difficult to be in a relationship or a circumstance where one of you is sober and one of you is not, especially if you're still going to bars and parties and things like that. It's I'm not saying that it's impossible for you to live that kind of marriage or that kind of life, but it is certainly much more difficult.
Definitely
because
not. I mean, I did it for 2 years.
Yeah,
Alethea still wanted to go out and go drink and stuff like that. Not like crazy. Like we never went partying and stuff, but it did make it harder for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was when we went and saw Tavana all the time at O'Toole's or what's it called? Hard Rock Cafe. It's like that space, especially for me, like growing up in my family, I was just like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, time to party. I think okay, so if you are sober and your spouse is trying to get sober, I think the best thing you can do is like they know the keys, right? So like they know what they need to do. Make sure you set your boundaries. Like here's the line that you can't cross. Like let them know like if you slip, it's fine. Like we not necessarily fine, but like there's possibility we can make through that. But I'm not going to let you like abuse the slippage, or like I'm not going to, just make sure you set clear boundaries and then be supportive. Like, hey, do you need AA? Does that work for you? Find out what works for you. I'll go with you to the things. Like I've done that with a few of my employees. I've done that with a few family members. Like, hey, what do you need? Like,
they have Al-Anon too, which is like for family members and friends of addicts.
Yeah, so it's like I'm a firm believer that sobriety is about finding. At first, it's just white knuckling it because you just have to white knuckle it long enough to rebuild an understanding of how to have fun without alcohol again or drugs. And sometimes that just takes time and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But in the process of doing that, as a spouse, you can be supportive of them trying new things. Like, hey, if AA doesn't work for you, maybe try going to a church, any church, whatever. If church doesn't work for you, maybe try starting a new like rock climbing or a new sport, mountain biking, whatever, hobby. Like new hobby. Yeah, trying new things. Being sober means that you're opening up your time. Think about how many hours at night are spent like drinking alcohol or on the weekends. Those are all hours that you have to fill with entertainment now. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll fall right back into old habits. So, like, what are you filling that time with?
And as I've said, I'm not sober anymore, but since I've learned moderation. But I would say that it's so easy when you do get sober for the first time or second, whenever you get sober, it's so hard not to replace it with something that kind of sucks too. Like what do you see the most? I see soda.
Yeah,
I see sugar.
Sugar was a big one.
Like the first time I did, I was drinking like 4 cups of coffee a day with 18 sugars and 14 creams in total.
Caffeine.
Disgusting.
Caffeine. People replace it with like 6 Monsters a day. Whatever. Like. And sometimes it's not a bad thing. Like I have an addictive personality by nature, and so I push things to their limit. Like that's just who I am. So I have learned how to balance. But for the first year, I worked nonstop all day. And the second year, it was just as bad. I was like, you remember, like I didn't know how to stop and just hang out, and like it was work, and then right before bed, we would watch a movie or like watch TV, and that was my decompress, and then I'd wake up and do it again.
Yeah, your replacement was for sure work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. It just I just stayed busy all the time. There was no like going. You remember we'd stop by like Carly's party or friends' parties, and I would stay for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, all right, see you later.
Yeah, you still do that, motherfucker.
That's true. But for different reasons.
But I understand why.
But for different reasons. Yeah. Back
no, I
then
get
it was
it.
because like I couldn't be around the alcohol and like I had to get to work to stay busy. Now it's just because like I just have other things going on that require my attention.
You stayed right up until the point where you were like, I think that I could possibly have one or two. Nah, I gotta go.
Gotta go. See you later. See you later. Yeah, I think we've talked about that a couple of times. Like
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat. Like I'll never open the box, so I'll never know. But I'm pretty sure like I could, because I've changed my life so fundamentally, I could handle things now. But you know, whatever. I don't. Never gonna happen. So it's a moot point.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah. So and then if you are a that's for a sober spouse helping a sober spouse. If you are a not sober spouse helping a sober spouse, I think that if you really love them and care about them, it's going to be difficult for you, but you have to, sometimes that requires you saying no to alcohol that night. Like, okay, my
Right.
husband's having a bad night. Like me bringing home a box of wine is probably not the best idea.
Right.
You know? Like,
And I feel like we talked about just barely. I feel that the box of wine at the house would be monumentally easier for me than being like, can we go out and get some drinks at a bar?
yeah,
That's harder for me because it used to be like the biggest thing for me is environment.
yeah.
Like if I'm around my family, look out.
I don't
It's a
know.
problem.
So I don't know. I don't know I don't know the actual data. So like, I don't need a bunch of people reaching out to me like that's
Yeah.
incorrect.
Right.
I am regurgitating information that I heard from Alex Hormozy.
Right.
So where he found it, I'm sure is legitimate because he's a pretty legitimate guy. But there was this study done, and like 25% of people that went to Vietnam did heroin, right? And so everyone thought that
That's
there
a
would be,
generous number.
yeah. Well, everyone thought that they would come back and there would be a huge pandemic of like heroin addicts.
Mhm.
But like of that 25% of the soldiers that deployed and did heroin, most of them came back and left that addiction or that stuff in Vietnam and never did it again because their environment changed, right? So his theory, or a theory, is that like some people think that you can't run away from your problems. And I agree. You have to want to change. But also changing your environment is probably conducive to helping you have an easier time ditching those old bad habits.
Yeah.
Right? So like you said, like your environment is a lot. So if your spouse is sober, your job is probably to be supportive and like not put them in environments where that stuff is difficult for them to do.
Right.
I
agree.
think is probably the best thing that you could do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Environment is like everything.
Yeah. The next question I had was well, let's do yours real quick.
My topic's just a quick one. It's kind of a question for you, I guess, but I just thought it was funny earlier. I was kind of thinking about trying to come up with something, and I was thinking of how funny and ironic it is that like my like decompression or escape from reality. Sometimes it's nice to just get away from all reality.
Yeah.
My biggest escape from reality is watching reality TV shows.
Get
outta here.
There it is again.
But dude, like, cause what's going on that TV show is monumentally so far from what my regular life is. It's like I'm watching a different
Yeah.
dimension
Yeah.
right now. Like it's like I'm living my life. We do what we do, and then I go home and I'm watching this TV show that's like, oh, you guys secretly kissed. You have lost $6,000 from the prize pot, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
What?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But
I've never. There.
well,
are a
I was
lot-
gonna say, what's your escape?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who dig on the reality TV as like an escape from their own reality. And there was a period of time when I was living in Oregon where Kyle and I would drink like every day and watch Big Brother.
Yeah, we watched Big Brother a
I
lot,
watched Big
dude.
Brother a lot.
We watched Big Brother a ton.
Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
like 3 seasons in a row of that. That was probably the only like real reality TV I've ever consumed.
That's
But
good.
for me, my escape from reality, dude, is when I married Erica, it was new to her because she was not like a TV watcher in the evenings. That's
Really?
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But she also wasn't like, I think she's
I
like,
thought everyone was.
I think she's like a phone scroller or like,
Oh,
she
fair.
maybe, but like,
That's my sister, actually. My
Yeah.
sister's the same.
yeah, she'll just kind of lay down and like scroll and do whatever. Like for me, or like, whatever, meander around the house,
Right.
piddle paddle around, like for me, it's, I'm not really a phone scroller
Yeah.
at night. Like as soon as my day is done, I end it the same way every time. I will not eat and shower until my day is done.
Right.
For dinner, anyways. So sometimes that's like 9 or 10 at night. I shower, dinner is cooked, and then I eat, and then I watch TV, and that's it. I'm done.
Mm.
I don't like showering and eating and then going back to work. I don't know why. It's just like this thing that like As soon as dinner is done, my day is done.
Yeah,
dinner and
absolutely.
showering is done. Like I'm not going back.
As soon as I'm cooking dinner, unless I'm responding to like a text from you or a couple of random things we're trying to get taken care of for the day, I'm not going to go to my computer after I start cooking
I'm not
dinner.
going to do physical labor. Like I'm not going to go back out into the yard.
Right
like,
now.
There are circumstances where it does happen. Like it's not a perfect scenario, but for the most part, like if I'm watching TV and I'm showered and eating dinner, like that's my decompress time. I'll do that for like an hour with Erica and then fall asleep. And like that's it. Like my 1 hour of decompress a night is watching like, I think now.
TV is a good escape. I feel like just because it's a different life. You're watching something completely different.
Yeah, and my phone is not really even that anymore for me because like I'm utilizing social media as a tool. It's not like a relief for me anymore, guys. I go on there and it's like I have to post, I have to do this, I got to respond to comments. So it's like that's my tool. I put it away. Like it's not really that fun for me to scroll through social media anymore. I mean, I still do it. I
go on and off of the phone scrolling thing, like as far as after dinner goes.
Yeah.
But I follow too many food things, and I just get so I just want to eat everything in the world.
Yeah. It's that's kind of So TV for me. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not a bad thing. Like people are like, "Oh, TV's your decompression." It's like, it's awesome.
It is. Yeah, I watch an hour of TV.
It's great.
Like, whatever.
I love it.
Yeah, but I also at night there are also two different ways I end the night. I either read and people are like, "Oh, you watch TV?" I also read. So I read my 10 pages. Sometimes I do that before I watch TV, and then I watch TV and click it off and go to sleep.
Yep.
Sometimes I watch TV for an hour, and then I do my reading, and I click it off and go to sleep. But one of those two patterns is every night. I always do my reading, and I watch my show. So when people are like, "Oh, that's how you decompress," dude, I spend 1 hour of my time every day decompressing, and I need that in order to be ready to go for the next day. You can decompress however you want, but I don't feel like if I work, and then go straight to sleep, and then wake up and work, I don't feel like I ever even had.
You never left work.
I never left work. Yeah, and I need that. I need at least the mental reset of I left work.
And I decompress way longer than you do. Like I don't watch TV for an hour and then turn it off. Like I watch TV for like 3 hours on average a night because we cook at 4:30, eat dinner at 5:30 ish.
Yeah.
And then, watch until bed.
Yeah. So it changes. Yeah. Like, and sometimes that's not even always the case. Like sometimes it might even be like you're watching a show and then you get up and like I know that you and Sarah will play chess sometimes or like whatever. Like it changes. It's not like a perfect scenario. Like I don't watch exactly this much every time. Sometimes I might watch 2 hours. Sometimes I might watch 30 minutes. You know, like whatever.
Right. I got
In general, an hour.
Fair enough. All right. What's your next question from the homies?
So I got one from a pretty renowned tree guy who will probably see this, and he asked me why I started. Let me get the exact wordage. Why did you start your tree service? Which I thought was a good question. And the last question is going to be really good. But this question is, why did I start my tree service? Dude, I didn't.
Right.
This guy started a tree service because he loves trees. And he's good at it. He's been doing it his whole life. And I didn't start a tree service because I wanted to start a tree service. I started a tree service because that's what Spencer and I decided to start. Because we thought it would be low overhead and easy work. You cut a tree, you put it in a thing, that's it. Much more complicated than I originally thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Way more complicated. But
who is it? Is it Treesus?
Yeah, Treesus.
Cool.
Yeah, it's Treesus. I didn't know if he wanted to be said on.
It's a hard motherfucker right there.
Yeah, Treesus is he's a G. But it was a good question. So to answer his question, I didn't start a tree service because I thought this would be like the cool business. Like I started it because that's what Spencer and I decided to start, and then I fell in love with it through the process. Like I fell in love with the engineering part of it, dude. And honestly, doing big trees is like a thrill. And I've always I joined the Army because I kind of like the adrenaline and the thrill. And when we do a big job, it's really rewarding to look at this giant empty space where there's a tree or flying the crane ball. I fell in love with it after it had already begun, and I fell in love with leadership and I fell in love with tree work. But that was a afterthought of just, I want to start a business to change people's lives so that I can give more jobs to people, so I can do these things, so I can learn how to run a business, so I can
impact the community,
be my own boss. Yeah, for all the numerous reasons, I didn't start a tree service because I wanted to do trees. That came later.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I didn't develop that love that you did. I wanted a job, and these years later, I'm where I'm at. I love Treeco for the company aspect of it. Yeah. I love us as a company. I think it's badass that we do trees. Yeah. I think it's awesome, and I think I wouldn't want to do anything else at this point because it's such a good platform.
Yeah.
For badass stuff. But I mean, like we talked about last week, we we have a company because we wanted to give back. We don't have a company because we were like,
Yeah.
let's do some tree work.
Yeah, let's do some tree work. Like, I didn't
Absolutely
wake up
not.
one day and say, hey, I want to run a tree business. It was like, I just want to change things. And I want to, and tree work is the field that we happen to land in. And yeah, you might not love the tree stuff, but you love what you do. And I try and explain that to people all the time. Like, my dad is one of the people who grew up his whole life knowing exactly what he wanted to do. Really
Yeah.
blessed that way. Loves,
Wild.
my dad is an animator, always wanted to be an animator, became an animator, loves it. And I feel like a lot of people think that, like, you always hear that quote, and it drives me absolutely up the wall. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. How many people know something that they love enough that they could do it their whole life and never feel like work? Like, barely anyone.
Well, you have to do a lot of things to find that thing too. That's
Yeah.
like, I heard that quote from, I forgot, but
Yeah.
he was saying, like, loving what you do and all that. He says, what was it? Fuck, sorry. He just said, it doesn't feel like work, but it should be work. It should feel like work. Like,
Yeah.
even though you love it,
Yeah.
it should feel like
There's
work.
still sometimes
you know what I
where
mean?
it's going to feel like work. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And that's how I feel. Like, I'm not one of those people, and I think most people are not one of those people. And it might change. You might like something for 15 years, love it for 15 years, and then be like, okay, I'm kind of over this. I feel like humans are nomadic by nature, not necessarily like nomadic as in like living in one place. I do think that people have wanderlust, that's why it's a thing, but also nomadic by like they want to learn and experience new things.
Yeah.
Which means that you can't do one thing for your whole life and be content. Like most people, some people just love it, man. That's their thing, and I get it. But for me, yeah, it was like that. Like, I didn't necessarily, like, I fell in love with trees and I love it. I love what I do now. But for you, doing what you love wasn't like, you don't grow up as a kid saying, like, I want to be a philanthropist. And that's like what I
Right.
love doing. That's what I want to do. But
Right.
somewhere along the line, you're like, I really love my job. I really love what I do. And like, people
Yeah.
are like, well, what do you do? And it's like, how do I describe that to you? I'm not a firefighter. Like, I didn't grow up thinking I wanted to be a firefighter or a cop or whatever.
Unfortunately, I did not become an astronaut.
I did not become a flutist for the Philharmonic. I'm sorry. You know?
Isn't it flautist?
Flautist? Yeah, whatever it is,
Both-
dude. By
both
the way,
dumb,
Yeah,
both dumb.
I don't play the flute, just so everybody knows. I don't play any instruments. I'm not very musically inclined. Okay.
I play a couple, but what's
Yeah.
this last great question?
Last great question.
We'll see how good it is. Better be good.
We've seen each other at our worst and motivated each other at our best. How do you navigate dynamic relationships like that at this stage in your life, where the good can be so good, but the not so good is something you absolutely can't go back to? I think what he's asking is
What?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can read it. Here, I'll show you. It's that one.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can start. your
Yeah,
answer.
I think what he's asking is like when you get to the stage in life, right, where at least, you know, for most people, like 27 to 35, and this is my understanding of the question. Maybe you can clarify too. My understanding of the question is like from like the ages of like 27 up, right? You have friends that are party friends, and you have friends that are like
Work
going
friends?
places, and
Oh,
you have friends that
okay.
are like work friends. How do you navigate those relationships in like a healthy manner so that like the bad ones don't bring you down, but you still let those people know you love them, and the good ones are, you know, like good, you know, I think. And dude, I that's one that I've had to really work on over the last 5 years of sobriety, 4 years of sobriety, because I don't want people to think that I think that I don't want, this is a hard one, man. I come
Complicated.
I come from humble places, right? Like, I've been at the bottom of the barrel. Like, I know what it's like. I've been addicted to alcohol. I have had no nickels to scratch together. I've had no vehicle. I've had no food on the table with no idea where the next meal is coming from. Like, I've been there. I get it. How do you go from that to this without looking at like the old friends who are still living that life and being like looking down on them or thinking they're less than you? And like the answer is, I don't treat them any differently than I would. Like, I still love you, and I'm still here if you need to talk, but like also I will tell you how to get here, but I'm not going to slow down to your level. You need to catch up or you'll stay where you're at. Like, it's not
or like we're not gonna hang out.
yeah, we're just not going to hang out because
Yeah,
it's not
it's
my
okay.
responsibility. Yeah, and like people change, and that sucks. And we're like, oh, like I've heard it from multiple people, and it's been pretty hurtful. But I've learned to like put on my heart out of shell to get through it. But like even like some certain family members have been like have told me at one point in my life like, oh, well, you just think that you're all better than us now because you found God and like you're sober in this. And I don't think that I'm better than you. I think that I'm working harder than you. That's
Right.
it. Like I don't think that I'm better than you. I don't think I'm more blessed than you. I don't think that there's more savior on my side. I literally don't think anything other than the fact that I'm working harder than you. And if you want to get to where I am, put in the same amount of work.
Right.
That's it. Like, I don't know how else to describe that to you. And you wanting me to come hang out at the parties all the time and like slow down is just not going to happen because I don't want to do that anymore. I did that for
Exactly.
15 years of my life. And you know where it got me? Nowhere. You
Right.
know? And so like, why are you mad at me for not living that life anymore? Because you're jealous of the life that I live? Because they're jealous of the life that you live? Or is it because like you're angry at like your success or my success because you feel left out? Like I don't have the answer for you.
Yeah, I mean, it could be along the lines of, I don't know, how do I put this? But back when I was real bad as well, like real low in the barrel, like I wouldn't be mad at people that were doing better than me, but I was jealous of them. But in that same time, I was still doing what I was doing, and what I was doing was more important than trying to become the people that I was jealous of, or trying to become as good or get as far as people that I was jealous of. You know, you see these people that get, you know, not famous, but really successful. And I would be sitting there drinking a handle of Captain Morgan and be like, man, I wish I could be that. And then take another swig of my Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. It's and it goes back to like also being accountable. Like and people don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be honest with themselves. And that's when my life changed. When I honestly looked in the mirror and I said, dude, you're not even living up to close to your potential. And also you blame everyone. I've never blamed people, but I blamed myself for like not living up to my potential or circumstance, or like this was taken from me, like yada yada. Ex-wife treated you like garbage, this, that, and the other. It was always just like not being accountable to the fact that you made those mistakes. You married that girl, whatever. Like, yes, there are things that like, there are certain situations in life where like you get dealt a bad hand, like natural disasters, like, people being abusive to you.
Right.
Those are very valid things. But also, I forget where I heard it, but the next thing is, and what? Like, what's next? Those things happen to you, and what? Complaining about it's not going to get you to a better life.
Right, and I say this all the time. But yeah, like, abuse in the home and childhood, war in Iraq, the 10 years after that was just a shit show for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't change a single thing. It made me exactly who I am right now. And when I look in the mirror now, because of those things that have happened,
you like who you are?
I love who I am. I don't just like who I am. I am so happy with where I've gotten to. So shout out to fucking me.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Like I talked to my wife about this too. Like, are there things in my life that I regret doing? Absolutely. There are things that I look back on and I feel ashamed of. Like things that I did when I was drunk or inebriated. Things that like they make me embarrassed or like red in the face when I think about them too much, And I would not change a single thing because I love who I am. And those things are part of my story. And that shame and those guilty things that I have done are things that I've had to work through in order to become this person. And this person is unstoppable in my opinion. And this person is a person that I love. This person is a person I'm proud of. And it was forged through those ways.
Right.
So
I mean, I don't know if you would agree with this, but if we hadn't gotten all that mental toughness being combat personnel in the military, I don't think we would have pulled ourselves out of that bottom of the barrel drinking and the funk and like the continuous. I think, I don't know if we could have.
I don't know either.
But I did, so obviously it did.
And we did. Yeah, I did, and that's why like at Trico, I am absolutely 100% trying to instill a business, what's the word I'm looking for? At Trico, I'm trying to instill a company, what's a culture? In Trico, I'm trying to still
Gotcha.
instill a company culture where everyone is an absolute Spartan and there is no room for weakness. Like, you have to work hard every day, and we're trying to teach those things. We're trying to teach those things in order to give the guys the things that we got in the military, so that when they're broken down,
Right.
when we have these recovered addicts who are teaching other addicts how to
Yeah.
get through it, they know, like, this is how you do it. It is by being tough as nails.
Yeah.
And, like, holding on when the world is literally on fire around you.
Yeah.
Keep walking. And then eventually the fire will dim and it'll get less and less and less. And the further you walk and the longer that you hold on, the less heat it goes and the less you need to focus on holding on strong. You know, like that's how I feel about
Yeah.
it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I don't know that we got totally off topic with that conversation. But as far as navigating relationships goes, I would be an example to those that you need to be an example to. Set boundaries with the people that don't understand boundaries. And you should always have, I've heard this somewhere, I don't remember where, I don't even know if this is an exact quote or if I, in my head, have made it my own quote, but you should have, if you had 5 people,
Yeah.
4 of those should be on your level or ahead of you.
Right.
And 1 guy is the guy that you should be helping behind you. So
Okay.
like you have 3 people that you're looking up to, 1 person who's on the same level as you, and 1 person behind you that you're dragging forward. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, my thing would, and my like you said, my thing would be balance, boundaries, and knowing when to let go.
Balance, boundaries, and knowing where to go. That's a perfect way to put it. Let's close with that. Boundaries, when navigating relationships with old friends and new friends. Boundaries, balance, knowing when to let go.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's all I got. You got anything else?
No notes.
No notes, coach. Get out of my face.